I thought I was going crazy. The texts, the late nights, the subtle perfume that wasn't hers. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Not at first. She was everything to me. Her name was Madison, and she had this way of making you feel like the center of the universe. That smile, damn, that smile, could undo me in seconds. When we met 3 years ago, I was a mess. Recovering from a failed business, a broken engagement, and a father who just passed. Madison was the light that pulled me out of the wreckage. She worked in marketing, sharp as hell, confident, the type who walked into a room and made people turn without even trying. I was proud of her. Hell, I bragged about her to my buddies every chance I got. She's a killer in heels. I'd say, half joking, not knowing how true those words would become. The signs were small at first, the usual ones. But I didn't want to be that guy. The jealous boyfriend. The insecure wreck. I trusted her. Or at least I wanted to. It started when she landed a big promotion. She was suddenly working closer with the VP. A guy named Nathan. Slick. Polished. The kind of man who wore watches worth more than my car. I met him once. He gave me this half smile like he knew something I didn't. Like I was the punchline to a joke I wasn't in on. I remember that dinner. We were supposed to celebrate her promotion, but she spent most of the night texting. I asked her about it gently. She said it was just work stuff. I nodded, lied to myself, pretended it didn't sting. But then came the changes. She started dressing differently. Not just better, sexier. Tighter dresses. Higher heels. Lingerie I'd never seen before. When I asked where she got them, she just smirked and said, "A girl's gotta treat herself sometimes." The thing is, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she was still the woman who used to curl up beside me every Sunday, watching trash TV and eating pizza straight from the box. But she was drifting, and I was drowning. Then one night, it hit me like a punch to the gut. She came home late, drunk, laughing, lipstick smeared, smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine. I asked her where she'd been. "Work event," she slurred. "With who?" "Just Nathan and some clients. Nothing serious." She passed out 5 minutes later. I stayed awake until sunrise. The next morning, I checked her phone while she was in the shower. I know it was wrong. I know. But my hands were shaking, my heart pounding, and the truth was clawing its way out of my chest. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The messages were there. Not just flirty. Not just inappropriate. Full-on sex. Pictures. Plans. Inside jokes. "Miss last night already. You wore me out, babe. Next time, let's not bother with dinner." My world collapsed in a single scroll. And the worst part? She chose him. Over me. Over us. I didn't confront her that day. Couldn't. My hands were trembling, my throat dry, and my thoughts spun like a hurricane inside my head. I went to work as if nothing happened. Sat through meetings I don't remember. Answered emails I couldn't care less about. Every smile I faked felt like another needle in my gut. I kept picturing her with him. The looks they must have shared, the touches, the sounds, played in my mind like a cruel, never-ending movie, and I couldn't hit pause. For days I walked around like a ghost. I studied her. Every move, every glance at her phone, every excuse she gave to stay late or work weekends. She was lying through her teeth, and I was letting her. Because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to let go of the illusion, of the life I thought we had, of the woman I believed she was. But I started digging. I couldn't help myself. I went through her emails one night while she was asleep. She never logged out of her laptop. And what I found confirmed what I feared. Reservations at hotels, Uber receipts, photos buried in folders with misleading names. There was even a Word doc, a damn itinerary, with meetings that didn't exist. She was methodical, organized, cold. One name kept popping up. Nathan. It wasn't just sex. It was planned, repeated, hidden in broad daylight. She had been building this double life right under my nose, and I had been too in love, too blind, to see it. I tried to recall when it all started to slip. Was it after the vacation we canceled? The night I worked late and came home to find her already asleep in full makeup? Or maybe it was when she stopped asking me about my day, stopped touching me like she used to, started flinching when I reached for her hand. I didn't sleep for 3 nights straight. My chest felt tight all the time. My appetite disappeared. I started skipping meals, losing weight. Friends asked if I was okay. I told them I was just stressed with work. They believed me. I mean, why wouldn't they? She still posted happy photos of us online. Her arms around me, her smile wide and bright. A perfect lie wrapped in a filter. I finally told someone, my best friend, Jake. We were grabbing beers after work and I just cracked. He listened in silence, his jaw tightening with every word. When I was done, he said something that stuck with me: you can't heal in a place that keeps wounding you. That night, I stood in front of our bed watching her sleep. Peaceful. Dreaming, maybe, of him. I wanted to scream, to shake her awake and demand the truth. But I didn't. I couldn't be the one to make a scene. Not yet. Not until I had everything. So I made a plan. I was going to catch them. In person. No denials. No gaslighting. No more lies. Just the truth. Raw and ugly. I started by watching her patterns. She wasn't exactly discreet, not anymore. Every Thursday, like clockwork, she'd leave the house at 6:30 p.m. claiming she had strategy meetings with the West Coast team. It was a bullshit excuse. No one in marketing meets in person that late every single week. She'd come home around midnight, cheeks flushed, hair tousled, the scent of her perfume barely masking the musk of another man. I had played dumb for too long. Now, I played along quietly, strategically. The following Thursday, I followed her. I told her I was working late, kissed her on the forehead like nothing was wrong, and waited 10 minutes before slipping out the back door. I kept my distance, staying at least 2 cars behind. She didn't notice. She never once looked in the rearview mirror. She drove downtown, pulled into the parking garage of the Lark, an upscale hotel we could never afford unless it was a special occasion. The irony was sharp enough to cut. We had once stayed there for our anniversary. She had told me it was her favorite place in the city. I guess it still was. She didn't go to the bar. Didn't linger. She walked straight to the elevator like someone who'd done it 100 times. I waited outside, my palms sweating, my heart thudding in my ears. I needed to know. I needed to see it with my own eyes. There had to be a part of me still hoping I was wrong, that maybe, somehow, this was all a misunderstanding. But deep down I knew. I'd known for weeks. An hour passed. Then, too. I sat in my car, staring at the entrance, willing myself not to cry, not to break. Around 10:40 p.m. I saw him. Nathan. Dressed in a navy suit, no tie, crisp white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He looked like a magazine ad. Confident. Polished. Arrogant. He strolled out of the hotel like he didn't have a care in the world. No shame. No secrecy. Then she followed. Madison appeared about 5 minutes later wearing a tight black dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was slightly messy, lips redder than they'd been when she left. She looked radiant. Like she'd just come alive. Like she'd just had the time of her life. And none of it was for me. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I drove home before she could notice anything. She came in around midnight, like always, slipped into bed next to me like nothing had happened. I lay there in silence, staring at the ceiling, her back turned to me. I felt like a stranger in my own life. The next day, I called a lawyer. Not to file anything, not yet. But to understand my options. We weren't married, but we shared a lease, bank accounts, furniture, friends. Our lives were tangled like vines, and cutting through them would take precision. I wasn't going to let her twist this around. I wasn't going to let her make me the villain when she was the one who tore everything apart. I started documenting everything. Screenshots. Photos. Dates. Times. I needed the full picture. Not just for my sanity, but for closure. For proof to myself that this was real, that I wasn't imagining the betrayal that had been unfolding behind my back. I was ready. I just needed one more thing to catch them together. Face to face. No more secrets. Only truth. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Another Thursday. Another lie. This time, she said she was going to an industry mixer hosted by one of the firm's partners. She put on that same black dress, curled her hair just the way he liked it. I'd seen the texts, and sprayed a little extra perfume at her neck. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom watching her apply her lipstick in the mirror. She didn't even flinch when I said, "You look amazing tonight." She just smiled and replied, "Thanks, babe. I'll try not to be too late." The mask she wore was flawless, but I had already seen behind it. I followed again. This time with a camera. I borrowed a friend's Canon, the kind you'd use to shoot weddings. I had no real experience, but I didn't need much. Just point and click. She went to the same hotel, walked the same path, carried herself like a woman who had no fear of being discovered. I parked across the street, stepped out, and positioned myself behind a small tree on the sidewalk. I had a clear view of the entrance. I didn't know how long I'd have to wait or what exactly I'd see. I only knew I was done with questions. I needed answers that couldn't be denied. After about 20 minutes, Nathan arrived. He wasn't alone this time. He had a briefcase, probably some pathetic attempt to keep up appearances. He nodded at the valet, shook a bellhop's hand, and disappeared inside. It didn't take long. 10 minutes later, Madison came down to meet him in the lobby. I zoomed in, snapped the first picture. She was laughing, placing her hand on his chest, leaning in close as he whispered something in her ear. Another shot. Then they kissed. Right there. In front of everyone. No shame. No hesitation. Like they were a couple. Like I didn't exist. They took the elevator up. Together. I stood there for another hour. My body was numb. Not from the cold, but from the weight of what I had seen. I don't even remember driving home. I just know I walked through our front door and sat on the couch in the dark for hours, the camera resting in my lap, the images burned into my mind forever. She came home past midnight again. Her hair was messy, her lipstick gone. She tossed her purse on the kitchen counter and walked into the bathroom without even acknowledging me. I heard the water run, the soft hum of her voice as she washed away the night. I stayed seated motionless. The anger wasn't loud anymore. It had become something else, quieter, colder, deeper. When she walked back into the room, wrapped in a towel, I looked at her like I was seeing a stranger. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to let her know. Did you have fun? I asked. She blinked. What? At the mixer. Was it worth it? Her face stiffened. What are you talking about? I stood, grabbed the camera from the table, and handed it to her. You tell me. She scrolled through the pictures. One by one. Her face drained of color. Her lips parted slightly as if to speak, but nothing came out. For a moment, I thought she might cry. But she didn't. She just looked up at me, and in her eyes, I saw it, not regret. Not sorrow. Just fear. The fear of being caught. The fear of consequences. Say something, I demanded. But she didn't. She just stood there. Silent. Exposed. Her silence screamed louder than any confession ever could. She didn't deny it. Didn't beg. Didn't even try to lie. She just stood there, towel clutched to her chest like that thin fabric could somehow shield her from the wreckage she'd caused. I expected rage. I expected tears. But all I got was a quiet, blank stare, and somehow that made it worse. I needed emotion. I needed something. But she'd gone hollow. Or maybe, just maybe, she always had been. I sat back down on the couch, elbows on my knees, hands shaking. How long? I asked. My voice was steady, but inside I was crumbling. How long has this been going on? She swallowed hard. A few months, she whispered. I laughed bitter, joyless. Try again. She looked away. The truth, Madison. She sank onto the arm of a chair across from me, the towel slipping slightly. She didn't bother fixing it. Since March, she said. Maybe February. That was nearly a year. Nearly a year of lies, of shared dinners where she smiled across the table like everything was fine, of birthdays and holidays and movie nights, all while she was fucking her boss. I stared at her and for the first time really saw the person she'd become. Not the woman I fell in love with. Not the partner I imagined building a life with. Just someone I didn't know, someone I didn't want to know. Why? I asked. It came out hoarse, cracked. Why him? Why this? She finally looked at me. It wasn't supposed to happen, she said. It just did. Bullshit. Don't give me that, I snapped. You don't accidentally cheat for 10 months. You don't just happen to sneak around behind someone's back. You made a choice, Madison. Again and again. She flinched. You were distant. You were always stressed. You stopped caring. I stood up so fast the coffee table shook. Don't you dare put this on me, I said, my voice rising. You should have talked to me. You should have said something. Not this. Not him. She covered her face with her hands, but I didn't see guilt, I saw inconvenience. Like she was upset not because she'd hurt me, but because she'd been caught. Because now everything was going to be messy. Public. Real. I don't love him, she said suddenly. That stopped me cold. Then what the hell was all of this? She looked up. Eyes red, jaw tight. I don't know. It was easy. He made me feel powerful. Wanted. I felt like I'd been punched. So I made you feel invisible? She didn't answer. And that was all I needed. I walked to her bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing. Shirts. Jeans. Whatever I could reach. She followed me, begging now, soft, desperate. Please don't leave. Please, let's talk about this. But it was too late. She'd had nearly a year to talk. Now I was done listening. I slung the bag over my shoulder, turned to face her one last time. You made your choice, I said. Now I'm making mine. Then I walked out. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, I could breathe. The first night away was brutal. I crashed at Jake's place on his worn-out leather couch that smelled like old beer and takeout. The springs dug into my back, and the silence was thick, broken only by the occasional creak of the building settling or a distant car horn slicing through the dark. I didn't sleep. Not really. I just laid there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned slow, lazy circles. My mind kept looping back to her face, that look of hollow shock as I walked out the door. But what haunted me more was the question that kept whispering in my head, was any of it ever real? I scrolled through our old photos on my phone, stupid I know, but I needed to remind myself. Smiles at the beach. Candid's on the couch. Her head on my chest, eyes closed like she belonged there. It all looked so genuine. So perfect. But now every image felt tainted. Like watching a movie after learning the lead actor was a fraud. I couldn't tell what was authentic anymore. Was she always pretending? Or did she change somewhere along the way and I just didn't see it? Jake didn't ask questions. He handed me a beer when I walked in, clapped me on the shoulder, and gave me space. I respected that. Still, when the morning came and I sat at his kitchen counter, eyes bloodshot and hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee, he finally broke the silence. So what now? I didn't have an answer. I knew I couldn't stay there forever. I couldn't keep existing in this limbo, half in my old life, half out of it. Madison hadn't reached out since that night. No texts. No calls. Not even a sorry. I didn't know if that made it easier or harder. Part of me had wanted her to chase me, to show some kind of fight. Another part knew that if she had, I might have caved. But she didn't. She let me go. I spent the next week bouncing between work and Jake's place, trying to keep my head above water. I avoided mutual friends. I ignored social media. I deleted her number, though I knew it by heart, and stashed the photos in a hidden folder. Every time her name popped into my mind, I shoved it back down. I had to. Then, one night, I ran into her by accident. It was a Thursday. I had gone to pick up dinner from a sushi place we used to love, muscle memory, I guess. And there she was, standing by the bar, waiting on a to-go order. She hadn't seen me yet. She looked tired, pale, like she hadn't slept in days. Her posture was slouched, her phone clutched in one hand like a lifeline. And in that moment, something strange happened. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel hate. I felt nothing. She turned and saw me. Her eyes widened. For a second, she looked like she might speak. But I gave her a small nod, nothing more, and walked out. No confrontation. No scene. No closure. Just silence. Because by then, I understood something. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need her to explain or make it right. I just needed to move on. Moving on wasn't instant. It never is. It wasn't a clean break or a glorious moment of freedom. It was slow. Uneven. Some days felt like progress, like I could breathe again, laugh without it catching in my throat, eat without that lump of grief sitting heavy in my stomach. Other days hit harder. A smell, a song, a commercial for that wine she liked, they'd knock me back 2 steps and suddenly I'd be reliving everything all over again. But healing doesn't follow a straight line. It weaves, stumbles, retraces. And I kept going even when it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I started seeing a therapist. Jake pushed me toward it after finding me staring into a whiskey glass one night, not saying a word for hours. I wasn't sleeping, and when I did, the dreams were cruel. They'd start sweet, her laugh in the kitchen, her arms around me, and end with flashes of her and Nathan in that hotel lobby. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, heart racing like I'd just run 10 miles. Therapy wasn't a miracle cure, but it gave me tools. Gave me space to speak without judgment. For the first time in months, I didn't have to pretend I was okay. I also moved. I couldn't stay in the apartment. Every room whispered her name. Her coffee mug still in the cabinet. The throw pillow she insisted on buying. Her shampoo scent lingering in the bathroom air. I packed everything I owned into boxes one weekend and Jake helped me haul it to a smaller place across town. Nothing fancy. Just clean. Quiet. Mine. The lease was in both our names, but I didn't ask for her share. I didn't want her money. I didn't want any connection that would keep dragging her ghost into my life. When she texted a week later asking about some of her stuffed clothes, jewelry, a pair of heels she left behind, I told her I'd leave it in a box on the porch. She picked it up while I was at work. I came home to find it gone, and that was that. No goodbye. No closure. But I didn't need it anymore. One day, a few months in, I got a message from a mutual acquaintance. Apparently, Nathan had been let go from the company. Something about violating professional boundaries. Madison was still there, but she'd been moved to a different team. Word was, things ended badly between them, loud fights, HR warnings, awkward tension at staff meetings. I should have felt vindicated. Smug even. But I didn't. I just felt sad for her. Not in a forgiving, noble way, not like in the movies. Just detached. She'd burned down everything good in her life for something so hollow, so temporary. And now she had to sit in the ashes. I, on the other hand, had begun rebuilding. Not fast. Not perfectly. But real. I started going out again. Not dating, not seriously, but grabbing drinks, talking to people, remembering what it felt like to be seen by someone who didn't know my whole mess of a story. I joined a local photography group, started hiking again, slowly reclaiming pieces of myself that had been buried under her shadow. And every now and then I'd feel it, that flicker of something like peace. Like maybe I was going to be okay. It wasn't until I ran into her again, nearly a year after everything, that I realized how far I'd come. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind of crisp, golden day where the city felt alive in that rare, almost cinematic way. I was grabbing coffee at a farmer's market, flipping through a local artist's prints when I heard my name. I turned and there she was. Madison. She looked different. Not bad, just quieter. More subdued. The fire in her eyes was gone, replaced by something softer, maybe wearier. She wore jeans and a sweater, no heels, no makeup. Her hair pulled into a loose bun. She smiled, hesitant, unsure if she had the right to. "Hey," she said. I nodded. "Hey." A long pause followed, filled with everything we weren't going to say. She looked around, then back at me, her voice gentle. "You look good." I wasn't sure what to say. "Thanks." "You, doing okay?" I gave a small shrug. "Yeah. Actually, I am." She seemed relieved, though I could see the glimmer of something else behind her eyes, maybe guilt, maybe regret. Maybe just the ache of someone who knows they broke something they can't fix. "I wanted to reach out," she said, "but I didn't think it would help." "It wouldn't have," I replied, not cruelly, just honestly. She nodded. I figured. More silence. Then she glanced at the artwork between us like it offered refuge from the awkward weight of our shared history. "I made a lot of mistakes," she said finally. I let the words sit in the air. I didn't interrupt. I didn't comfort her. I thought. I don't know. That I wanted something more. Something different. But I wasn't honest about it. Not with you. Not with myself. Her voice broke slightly. "I'm sorry." I believed her. I really did. But it didn't change anything. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. But I'm not angry anymore. Just done. She blinked, and I could see it, the sting of finality. The realization that there really was no coming back. Not from this. Not from us. She nodded again slowly. "I hope you're happy." "I will be," I said. "I'm getting there." We exchanged a quiet goodbye. No hugs. No fake promises to stay in touch. Just a clean, silent ending, the way it should have happened from the start. As I walked away, coffee in hand, sunlight warm on my back, I felt a calm settle in me that I hadn't known in years. I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was just free. And for the first time, I truly believed I deserved better than what she gave me. Not just love, but honesty, respect, peace. And this time, I wasn't going to settle for anything less. The aftermath of betrayal lingers in strange places. You think it's over once the confrontation ends, once the bags are packed and the door shuts for the last time. But it's not. It follows you in subtle ways, in how you hesitate before trusting someone, in how you double-check every story, every delay, every half-smile. It creeps in late at night when you're alone, when the silence makes you replay the worst moments like a broken record. I'd be lying if I said I didn't carry some of that with me, even as I rebuilt my life. But healing isn't about forgetting. It's about learning how to live with the scars. Months passed. I got promoted. Not because I was chasing career highs, but because I finally had the mental clarity to focus again. Without the constant weight of suspicion, without the emotional minefield of a toxic relationship, I began to rediscover my drive. I didn't just show up to work anymore, I engaged. I led projects, mentored interns, reconnected with the version of myself that once believed he could do something meaningful. My friendships deepened too. I stopped deflecting when people asked how I was. I started saying things like, "Actually, I'm struggling," or "I'm okay, but some days are hard." And people responded. They shared their own pain, their own stories of being cheated on, lied to, discarded. Turns out betrayal isn't rare, just rarely talked about. And in those conversations, I found a kind of unexpected strength. Eventually, I met someone new. Her name was Claire. We didn't start with fireworks or some grand cinematic romance. It was coffee after a gallery opening. Then dinner. Then long walks through the park where we talked about everything and nothing. She wasn't trying to impress me and I wasn't performing. We were just real. And after what I'd been through, that meant everything. One night, a few months into dating, I told her about Madison. Not the gory details, not the photos or the hotel stakeouts, just the truth. That I'd been betrayed. That it had changed me. That I was still learning how to trust again. Claire didn't flinch. She just reached for my hand, squeezed it and said, "You don't have to rush anything. I'm not going anywhere." I believed her. Because this time I wasn't looking for a spark to distract me from pain. I was building something slowly. Carefully. Honestly. And that's the thing no one tells you about surviving infidelity. It can destroy you, yes. But it can also clarify everything. Your boundaries. Your worth. What you'll accept. What you won't. I wasn't the same man I was before Madison cheated. I was stronger now. And somehow, despite everything, I was still capable of love. Not naive love. Not blind devotion. But real, mutual, deliberate love. The kind that's earned. The kind that's chosen. The kind that heals, not harms. Looking back, I don't regret loving Madison. That may sound strange, even foolish, given everything she did. But the truth is, love, even when it ends in betrayal, still teaches us something. It shows us who we are at our most vulnerable, exposes what we need to heal, and reveals the cracks we've been ignoring. Madison didn't just break my heart, she forced me to confront all the pieces of myself I had been hiding behind comfort, routine, and denial. And in that pain, I found something I didn't expect: clarity. The man I was with her, he was too forgiving, too eager to please, too afraid to ask for what he needed. I let things slide because I loved her. I made excuses because I was scared of losing her. And in doing so, I abandoned myself long before she ever did. That's the deepest betrayal of all, the one we commit against ourselves in the name of keeping something broken alive. But now I listen to that inner voice that used to whisper warnings I ignored. I speak up. I set boundaries. I value honesty over comfort even when the truth is hard. Especially then. Claire and I are still together. We're not perfect, no one is. But we're open. We talk about things as they come before they fester. We don't play games. And when she looks at me, I don't see indifference or calculation. I see a partner, someone who's with me, not just next to me. Sometimes I think about the version of myself that first suspected something was wrong. The guy pacing the living room while Madison laughed on the phone in the other room. The guy who blamed himself, who second-guessed every gut feeling, who stayed longer than he should have because he believed love was supposed to hurt sometimes. If I could go back and talk to him, I wouldn't tell him to walk away sooner. I wouldn't even tell him to stop loving her. I'd just say this: you're going to survive. And one day, this pain, the kind that feels like it's swallowing you whole, it'll become your strength. You'll learn. You'll grow. And you'll be okay. Better even. Because here's what I know now, with a kind of clarity that only comes from walking through fire. She cheated. She lied. She broke me. But she didn't end me. And in the rubble of that betrayal, I found something stronger than love, stronger than heartbreak. I found myself.